If I didn't have the tool that I'm going to show you in this video, then I would find it nearly impossible to trade. That tool is the volume profile, and not just the specific volume profile, but a mix of volume profiles across multiple sessions to give me some key levels to base my trades off of in the New York AM session. So today, since I'm not trading the AM session because of FOMC, I'm going to walk you through step by step how I set up my levels for the day and essentially my daily routine, if you want to call it that. So let's get started. Just a short disclaimer, I am on MotiveWave here, so if anything looks dissimilar to TradingView, which most people are used to, you can do all of this stuff on TradingView that I'm going to show you, but you need access to a tool that you have to pay the minimum subscription for on TradingView, the fixed range volume profile tool. But even then, the levels that you can get from the volume profile in a platform like MotiveWave are still better than TradingView's volume profile, which I will explain why a little bit later. Anyway, I'm going to go over the two main volume profiles that I use. I have one very high time frame volume profile, which spans across the entire previous week, and I take the levels from that. But the two main ones that I use are the overnight Globex session profile and the previous regular trading hours profile. So it's 9:50, about 20 minutes after open. I don't normally start trading until 10 a.m. And the reason for that is that I have a current session volume profile, which I extend from the open at 9:30. And I typically give that about half an hour to fully develop so that I can actually base trades off of it. So I normally don't enter any trades until 10 a.m. But since this is Wednesday, the 28th, we are going to scroll back all the way over to the 27th. And then I'm going to take my trusty volume profile tool and I'm going to find 9:30 right there. And then I'm going to drag that volume profile through all the way to 4 p.m. exactly. And then I'm going to come to this little bubble here just to make sure that I did get those times right. Yep, 9:30 to 4 p.m. as you can see. And then what I will take from these levels is these three levels here, the two blue lines and the one red line. These are my previous regular trading hours value levels. So we have the value area low, the point of control, and the value area high. So the value area, which is denoted by the upper and lower blue line and everything in between it, denotes where 70% of the transactions that occurred in this day, in this regular trading hours session, were. So 70% of the trades that took place in this session were between this high and this low. And then the red line was the level where the most amount of trades took place. Remember when I said that platforms like MotiveWave work a little bit differently to TradingView? This is why. The volume profile that I've drawn here on MotiveWave, it's actually calculating these levels and this volume from the actual contracts that are coming into the market. A platform like TradingView will use something called tick volume, where it actually counts not the contracts, but the amount of ticks the price moves. And while that gives you a good estimate of what these levels are, it doesn't give you the 100% accurate levels. Those levels can only be accessed using a professional order flow platform like MotiveWave. So I have a little template here that I always put on when I'm marking up these previous levels to just tell me the exact level that is. So I'll go ahead and whack a horizontal line, which I also have templates for, and I will set this as my previous day value area low, my previous day point of control, and my previous day value area high. So now I'll come back to this profile and just unlabel it so I don't have those numbers cluttering the chart up. And these three levels are going to be very influential to the next following regular trading hours session, which I trade the first hour or two of. And then what complements that profile very nicely and helps a lot with the New York AM session as well is something called the overnight or the Globex session profile. So for that one, I will take that same volume profile tool and I will draw it from 6 p.m. all the way until 9:30 when we open. That will give me these levels right here. So I'll go ahead and mark them. Overnight point of control and overnight value area low. These levels aren't in place until the 9:30 opening bell, which is why I have to wait until 9:30 and then I can use these levels for my trading day. So let's go ahead and hide those levels from that profile since I've drawn them now. And we can actually come into the day that we're on. And you can already see how clean of a reaction we had from that previous day's value area high about 45 minutes before the market opened. And it bounced here, one, because I have these MotiveWave levels or professional order flow levels. So my levels are just that little bit more accurate. If we zoom out a little bit, we can see the bigger picture here that we had this previous day's value area high. So the premium level for the most recent regular trading hours session, we broke through it overnight. And then when we come back down to that level, then following morning, we are likely to see a lot of big participants come in and defend this level, which is why it bounced off of it so cleanly. But now we're actually at 10 a.m. We can put in the last piece of the puzzle, which is my full setup for the day. This is exactly how I trade. I don't use anything else other than occasionally looking at the heat map, which we have here, but this honestly doesn't really add a whole lot to my trading. The main thing is these levels right here, as well as the last profile that I'll use, which is drawn from 9:30 and extends with the current price. So this profile is a dynamic one. The levels on here aren't fixed, like that value area high, that point of control, and that value area low you see on this profile. They will change with price as as it moves, because this profile is automatically extending with every new order that comes into the marketplace. And the rough idea for what it is I'm looking at is I'm looking for these previous value levels from the 2 most recent sessions, and I want to see participants in the current market be willing to transact around these levels. If we get that, we form something called a high volume node across the level, and that then reinforces that level and makes it a very likely candidate for me to take a trade based off of it. That is a little bit of an oversimplification, but it gives you a rough idea of what it is I'm doing. A few other things will come into play. Like, for example, if one of these value area highs or lows overlapped with a previous session value area high or value area low, or even a point of control, then that also can give me some trade ideas. And I'm not looking for these massive one tap off the previous day value area high and just run and catch the low of the day. Obviously that is possible, because you can see it did it right here, and in fact it did it on NQ as well, exactly like this yesterday. But personally, I'm just looking for a small high probability scalp move that I can get maybe 5 to 10 points out of on ES, and most of the time that is me done for the day. But yeah, I thought since I'm not trading today, I would at least show you guys how I set up my volume profiles, so you can see how a volume profile is used, and maybe you can then even go and use it yourself. If you do want to get access to MotiveWave, which is the platform that I'm on here, it is definitely a worthwhile investment if you're someone who's interested in this whole volume profile, order flowy type of trading. But one word of advice is I would check out that video right there, because in that video I will go over how to get MotiveWave for the cheapest possible price. You can get it for as cheap as $60 to $70 instead of having to pay the $500 to $600 it would normally cost. If you are curious what my actual entries and stuff look like, then feel free to check out my streams and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss them.